Hello, everybody. We're back in technology. How are we today? I'm Abby Hagyard, and you're in my office in my tiny little corner of the world. And we are talking about something that sounds crazy on the face of it, except that it's actually very sneaky and it's very clever and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to grab my coffee. I have a footstooly thing under the desk, so it elevates my feet. And at the end of the day, it's the part on my feet that would normally be swollen is fine. It's the next level up. I'm gonna have to end up putting my feet on the desk in order to make this work. So first of all, welcome, Sip. So good. So here in my corner of the world, we're having a heat wave. We're not having a Dubai heat wave. It's not 1147,000 degrees, but it is humid here, and it is hot. And for those of us who don't enjoy the heat when it's really, really humid, um, stay cool, stay hydrated, get out of the sun, get in the shade. It's my advice. Put something on you that is blowing the air. And if you don't have air conditioning, there is an amazing hack that I just think is so smart. If you have a little fan, a portable fan, really all you need to do is get a hand towel and run it under the water on the sink, cold water, wring it out, and then drape it over the fan and turn the fan on. And what you get is you get the fan blowing the coolness from the towel. And it makes a huge difference. It really does. The other thing too is if you take that same hand towel, maybe before you put it on the fan, and you just apply it at your pressure points, the inside of your wrist, the inside of your elbow, um, behind your neck, base of your neck, behind your knee, just for a few seconds. It just calms everything down, gives you kind of back to okay, we can do it here. I always get the sensation when it's too humid that my not my bones so much, but the joints turn to pudding, and I just sort of feel like a boneless chicken. So this is the kind of weather that is out here today here, and I know it's happening for a lot of people. And there's also other extreme weather, and it's crazy to say get over it. It's crazy to say whine, snivel, moan, kvetch, because neither of those things helps. What does help is say, I have a hack for this. I am aware of it. I want to pay attention to it. I'm a human being, which means that I'm not perfect. I'm not infallible, and we need to look after us. We start with us. We're with us the whole time. We deserve to look after us, and it's kind of on that end of things that all of Pivotry is about. That we aren't looking after ourselves as well as we could because we don't really know that we have the tools to do it, the skills to do it. We're guessing, and sometimes we just end up staying frustrated and upset. I'm going to talk about a post I saw on social media very early this morning, and I decided to reply to it, even though we're not really close connected on Facebook. We are friends on Facebook, and I wanted to answer it, but I want to get to this first. So I'm just going to make a note. Yeah, okay. So on Tuesday, I talked about live and learn, that you can't learn truly in practical terms if at some point in time you don't live it. One of the reasons that they actually go and get 6 oranges in math class is to give you the opportunity to see numbers. And you say, if I have 6 and then I have 4, what happened? How many did I lose? All this stuff. Sometimes we need visual. People learn and people perceive things in so many different ways. And sometimes the words are too vague. Sometimes we need a sound effect. We need a visual. We need something tactile to allow our different filters to say, oh, I get it. So when I was talking about live and learn, I was saying that theory is very important. We need to understand the concept, but then once we understand the concept, the what if, we actually have to put it into practice to be able to understand that it works. Theory is one thing, practice is proof. And so then, my title was Live and Learn. And today the title is Watch and Wait. Seems like a contradiction. And how I've described it actually is that watch and wait is what we do after we learn. Watch and wait is what we do in order to advance our learning, to be able to get ahead of the learning curve rather than forever being dragged sideways through it behind something going at a high rate of speed. So I think the best analogy that I have for watch and wait is a mechanism that I kind of fell into as a child because I didn't know who I was, where I was, what was normal, what was expected of me, and how quickly I had to get in step every time we moved. Every single time we moved, it was a complete reset for me. I mean, there's certain basic things. We're always going to breathe. We're going to breathe differently if we're down at the beach or up at the top of the Andes Mountains. We are going to have to observe, observe and swerve. We watch and wait. We assess what we learned in theory. We apply the additional things we learned in practicing the theory. Now we have to watch what happens. We have to be able to see the bigger picture, watch how everybody in the equation is behaving so that we can predict the outcome and be there ready for it when the outcome comes. It's called profiling. And it's very, very exciting and fabulous when it works. So I'm going to explain it. Profiling is based on a known thing, and that is that we all have patterns of behavior. We all do similar things at similar times. We are predictable. We are obvious to people who are paying attention. Our intentions are obvious. People don't need to listen in on our conversations. They just have to watch us, Actions speak very loud. So as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, and all the way through my continuing adult years, what I tend to do is watch a lot of people. It doesn't look like I'm watching them. Quite often it looks like I'm performing. Quite often it looks like I'm talking, because I am. But I'm not talking to myself. I'm not talking in a vacuum. I'm talking to an audience. I'm talking to people in a room. I'm sitting in a room waiting for somebody to arrive, or waiting for my meal to arrive, or I'm just sitting and enjoying the moment. And if there are other people, if there are other things going on, I'm watching them. I'm fascinated. It's not that I'm a spectator. It's that I'm learning. I'm learning by observing and figuring out how I could use that, how I could do that, what's in it for me to know this. So, and then I store it away. And this is the problem that we all deal with every day. We don't know that we know it. We don't know that we did it before. We don't know that we've stored it, and we don't know where the storage is, because it's all kind of subconscious stuff. This is all part of the Pivotry learning curve. So when we watch something, and here's the analogy, okay? You know those nature shows, okay? And you watch a big cat hiding in the bushes, watching. The only thing moving is the tip of his tail. And the cat, or her tail, the cat is watching an animal and a situation, a herd, watering hole, presumably lunch, waiting for the right moment. How does the cat know what the right moment is? Because the cat has done this before. The cat has observed these animals before. The cat has watched the behavior when there's a fragile animal and is slightly out of the protection of the herd. That's lunch. The cat is watching that, also watching to see if anything else is watching. Listening, see its ears moving, listening to see if there's anything coming up behind. Paying attention, waiting for the moment. Which moment? The moment when the objective stops paying attention. When the objective is distracted. When the objective is not on the alert. That is the moment to seize. That is the moment when you think of a Viking ship. Not that we think of Viking ships often. When you think of a ship, when you think of a surfer, they're watching the waves break. Why are they just sitting there? Why are they just sitting there? Because they're waiting for the moment. They're waiting for the right wave, and then they're waiting for the moment when the wave is exactly where the surfer wants to enter it. Because the surfer has watched and waited to understand what happens when you enter the wave here, 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 and all the others. The surfer has come to understand where the energy works the best for the surfer. And that's what they're waiting for. They're watching and they're waiting. And so it's a function of timing. It's coinciding my timing with that timing. It's starting at the moment that serves me the best. Not starting just willy-nilly for no reason except that I felt like starting and now I have to frantically tap dance to catch up, or I have to pause and get out of the way and wait for something coming through. Watching is how we learn in the first place. We all learn by mirroring. We all learn by imitating someone teaching us, whether they know they're teaching us or not. We see behavior, we watch what happens, and we say, ouch, or oh, and we store that away. And we wait for the opportunity to try it ourselves. Now, sometimes the first time we try it is I would designate it as the utmost damned astonishment, because what it looks like and what it actually is are often two very different things. So it's not only good to watch a practiced surfer, it's really good to watch a beginner, because it's more likely we're going to learn from the beginner now so that we can learn from the expert later. So in this idea of watch and wait, there is a conversation about patience. There is a conversation about, but I want to do it now, impatience. And what's going on when I want to do it now is ego-driven eagerness. I want to do it now. I want to do it now, as opposed to I want to do it right. I want to do it with a high chance of success. I want to do it with all the tools. I want to do it with all the techniques. I want to do it with all the equipment. So I'm going to practice. I'm going to watch. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to practice with what I have in the moment. And as I practice, I realize which tools are the best ones for me, rather than just go out and get all the tools and then discover it's wrong. Every single thing we do is a process, and it's part of a larger process. And it's very difficult sometimes for us to recognize that fact, because we can only see through these eyes. We are focused. It's me and the objective. We have to remember that the objective is part of something else that we want to achieve. So I was having a very fascinating conversation with a great friend yesterday. And we were talking about several situations in my life, in her life, and in the lives of people that we we intersect with. And the subject of patience and impulsiveness and confidence and overconfidence and tap dancing to say, no, I meant to do that, was heavily woven into the threads of our conversation, because the people that we know and love and intersect with are as impatient and imperfect as I am, and sometimes she is. And what we were sharing and enjoying and concerning ourselves were the situations in which we saw things happening that we knew we really couldn't change. We experienced things happening that we knew we had to endure. We anticipated things happening that we did our best to prevent or prepare for. And as I say, it was an extraordinary conversation. And in the category of watch and wait and live and learn, the conversations that we have with people who simply uh, they love us, they understand us, they respect us, and they can't say yes to what we want because they are on a path. They're passionate, they're impatient, they're driven, and and they gotta now. They gotta now. And so, there's only a couple of things you can do in situations like that. You can stand in front of them and they'll run right over you, right over the top of you, blah, 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 and keep going. And we'll hear them in the distance saying, sorry, but they don't stop because their momentum is the passion that is fueling them. And their confidence is the passion that's fueling them. I got this. We got this. I can do that. And then, of course, in the distance, we hear thud, ow. Sometimes it's not that far in the distance. Sometimes it's us, thud, ow. And we say, oh, maybe I needed a couple more minutes to watch and wait, figure this out. And so then the harder we go, the behinder we get, because now we have to not only stop what we were doing, halt the momentum, but we now have to backtrack enough to try and repair the thing that we did incorrectly because of impatience and refusal to wait. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because part of our conversation as well, I said to her at one point, talking about one of these lovely people that we both just love. And I said, do they know who they want to be? And she said, I don't think so. And when I asked the question, and I said, I am fully aware as I asked the question that it really wasn't until, I don't know, maybe a year ago, maybe just a year ago, maybe not even a year ago, that I realized I had found what I want. And the craziest thing about what I want that I wasn't aware I wanted, that it took all this time of watching and waiting to recognize, is that every single thing I have really been doing, is the thing I want. When we get caught up and distracted by specifics, somebody said, you're all over the map. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm doing one thing. I'm in show business. No, but I mean, you're doing this and you're on that show and you're doing this stage play and now you're producing this and you're writing a book and you're doing some modeling training and you're like you're all over the place. And I said, well, it's all show business. It's all communications. It's all storytelling. It's all of it is the same thing. It's just on a different platform. If you're a tailor and your job is to mend clothing, or you're a clothing designer and your job is to create design clothing, you don't spend your entire life designing or mending one article. You don't mend one pair of pants. You don't take in the waste on something for the entirety of your career. You don't spend 60 years figuring out whether or not there should be padding in the shoulders of something. You design clothing. You are a tailor. You alter clothing. I'm in show business. I'm entertaining. I'm enlightening. I'm engaging. I'm communicating. I'm using every means at my disposal to get where I want to go. And when you say it that way, and you have the time, you give yourself time to stop the momentum, take a time out, grab a coffee, grab a soda, grab whatever, and just sit someplace quiet for a minute, 60 seconds. I talked about that on Tuesday. The self-rescue, the selfish 60. And at the end of the selfish 60, you just say, what do I do? What do I do all the time? What is the thing I do? And the interesting answer that comes is what we've always done. And I'm not talking about I always make mistakes. Dorothy Parker, I always fell in love with the same man. Fortunately, his name changed to keep things interesting. I have always been navigating. I have always been looking for the path. I have always been in a new place, looking for the direction to take. And then I have been telling people where it is and what it is and how it works. I have always been a storyteller, explaining my navigation tools. I've never not been that. I've used my stories of, dear God in heaven, what on earth was I thinking that time, to entertain people as life lessons, as hidden points on a map. Perhaps don't go left there. Why not? Well, bog, cliff, snake, just saying. And then when I took a bigger step back, and I had the opportunity to work with a brilliant therapist, she's my client, working with her on a business concept, getting it out of her head and onto the page and saying it the way she wanted people to hear what she meant. Also a navigation tool, also a storytelling tool. She told me something very interesting. We were talking about a phenomenon I had seen repeated several times in some interviews I was doing. And I said, is that a thing? Is that a thing that everybody I asked a question of, I got kind of the same answer? And she said, yes. Yes, it is a thing. It is a very profound thing. And essentially what she said, and this is so interesting. Generally speaking, we end up doing and being and practicing and repeating the task we did, that we were given, to keep ourselves safe and on track and facing forward when we were children. Somewhere around the age of 5-ish, when we first leave home, we go to school, preschool, and we discover that there's more than one tribe to belong to. Because as children, we're in one family unit, we're in one location, we're in one cave, we're dealing with one alpha who makes the decisions. Good morning, Freddie. How wonderful. Same thoughts. We don't stick to pants. You're a born navigator, Abby. I am, Freddie. I am. And it's a wise man like you who sees it, a wise person like you. So, what it was that we did to find our balance, to find our space, to find our sense of, okay, okay, what it was that we had to continuously do to get back to that sense of, okay, okay, here, okay, all right, we're good. And breathe. We're good. Whatever it was that got us to that spot is the thing we choose to do in any number of career paths, in any number of industries, in any number of situations and relationships. That exercise that we used to do for the first time as young children, that becomes the blueprint for who we are, how we are, and what we do, and why. And we never really pay attention to it. We never really realize it. It is in effect, we keep practicing to get it perfect. Now, if we were in a difficult and unhappy situation, and we keep revisiting it, to keep doing it, to perfect it, to get it better, that is equally hardwired. It's not helpful. It's not healthy, because it keeps us stuck in something that doesn't serve us and support us and allow us to grow. We are unconsciously staying in that same space because no matter how uncomfortable and small it might be, it's familiar, and we get comfort from familiarity, from status quo. If we watch what we do, we wait and see how many times we repeat it, in how many different ways, on how many different platforms, we can begin to see the pattern in ourselves. It's hard to see our own pattern because we're in the way, right? We can't see the forest. We're the tree. We're in front of the forest. And my wonderful friend yesterday, we were talking about this concept that the thing we did is transferable. You could be a tailor mending clothes. It doesn't mean that you have to have a career mending clothes. It means that you have an affinity for seeing something broken and fixing it, assessing a flaw and finding the strength to upgrade it, to improve it. So you could have been raised in one expression of this skill, and you could explore it in another. And one of the conversations that we have via me with regard to Pivotry is that when things change, when times change, when events change, when priorities change, if we try to stay stuck, if we try to stay holding on to those things that already have changed, we get left behind. We don't just stay still. Everything else moves forward, which means that we are farther and farther in the rearview mirror. That we did one thing doesn't mean it's the only way we can do it forever. What I have it's odd, it's funny, it makes me laugh every time it comes up in conversation. For somebody who really can't sing and shouldn't sing, I mean, for the happiness of all, really, I know a lot of musicians. I know a lot of singers. I've actually been paid good money to sing badly, but nevertheless sing. It's one of those kind of weird ironies, right? Although singing and music is a form of storytelling, and so maybe not that odd, just kind of on the fringe, so to speak. And so many of my musician friends have enjoyed a very fast and glorious trajectory to popularity. Some of them stardom, some of them fame on a small, medium, large, global scale. But the popularity is the big thing. They've experienced the rush of, oh my gosh, look at the number of people who turned out tonight. And then something happens over time. Some of the elements in our lives change just enough that it is no longer practical to, or doable even, to be a musician, to be a singer. And something got new friends. Well, there we are. Um, what we can do is we can say, what is it about being a musician? What kind of a musician am I? Which instruments do I play? Am I the guy? Do I sing? Am I part of the road crew? Do I get a huge kick out of organizing? Do I like the packing and unpacking? Do I like knowing that everything is on the stage the way I like it? Am I equally skilled at logistics? Am I an operations guy? Do I derive great pleasure and do I get paid big bucks to coach the onstage performers to up their game? You know, am I a show whisperer? Am I a booking agent? Do I get what it is that the musicians need before they leave, on the road, when they arrive, pre-show, show, and post-show? Do I know that like I know the back of my hand? Do I have an affinity for it? Well, then, your career in music is not over. You're just standing on a different part of the stage. You're still making the show happen. You're still part of the magic. You're just using your skills in a different way because they're transferable. You still are doing and being that thing you are. So when I asked my great and lovely friend, do they know who they want to be? The question I was really asking was, do they have any idea what they're really doing while they're doing? What am I really doing when I write a book? What am I really doing when I have these notebooks and I take all these notes and I read them over to myself and I say, what on earth does that mean? What am I doing? What I'm really doing is I'm taking the idea out of my head and I'm putting it on a page where I can see it. And as I flip the pages, I can see the ideas standing next to each other, sitting next to each other, waving at each other, allowing me to understand bigger pictures. I'm giving myself a different language, a different platform, a different filter to see the information, to hear the information, to think about, to assess, to organize the information so that I learn, I recognize, I have my aha, and I grow. And then I say, now, how can I use this as a navigational tool? Because the two things I am and always have been is a navigator and a storyteller. Where am I? Where the hell am I? Where's my house? Where am I? Where do I need to be? How long do I have to get there? What are the tools at my disposal? Has been the selection of questions I have asked myself every day of my life. And the answer is always part of a story. Part of it starts like this. Here's who you are. Here's where you are. Once upon a time, there was a king who had a beautiful daughter, the princess. And every single time, thank you, Freddie, that's very, very sweet of you. Every single time I have recognized that combination of things, and I've said, oh, look at that. That's what I do. And when I was talking to my friend yesterday, I said, kind of a duh moment when I began developing Pivotry. It suddenly occurred to me that every book I've ever written, every show, every character, every place I've chosen to live, every step, every shift, every decision has been an exercise in understanding, polishing, and perfecting this skill we have, becoming aware of it, making friends with it, practicing it, using it, understanding how it works, figuring out what happens when it doesn't work. Every day, all the time. Why? Because it's part of navigating. It's part of storytelling. And I'll explain very quickly why. When we have a compass, we have to keep checking the compass. When we have a wheel in a car, when we have the wheel on the boat, we have to keep checking our direction. We have to keep testing the wind. We have to keep our eyes around us. We have to watch the waves, watch the road, watch the skies. Why? Because the conditions are changing all the time. Even if we're standing still, the conditions are continuously shifting. I walked out of the house yesterday to move my car because what a lovely building that I live in. They had given us notice a few days ago that the company was coming to repaint the lines in the parking garage. And so please move your car. Well, okay, yes, otherwise I'll have a yellow line down the middle of my car. I'm on it. And I walked into the building and it was sunny. And I was looking at the weather forecast and they said, intermittent showers. And I looked outside, beautiful sunshine. Okay. So I'm just going to run out, get the car, and then drive into the building. I took 2 steps away from the building and the heavens opened, sploosh. And my umbrella and my raincoat are in the building. I am outside the building. I'm 10 steps from my car and I am a limp noodle, floof. And I thought, okay then, intermittent, got it. Slop, 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 splash, splash, over to the car, grab the towel out of the back seat, put it on the seat, sit on it, drive in, windshield wiper, me, into the building, park the car, come back, up the building, take off the soaking wet jacket. That's nice. Dry my hair. What was I doing? Well, I wasn't checking, wasn't paying attention. I was saying, you know what? Nothing's going to change between here and the car. Okay. The universe says, tee. What? Thank you. What? Coming up in the elevator, somebody says, you must have been outside. What's your first clue? If you take a notebook, if you take your letter folder, and you say to yourself, who am I planning to be? What am I doing? And start with specifics. Start with whatever it is that you're doing in this moment. And then gradually think of it like, concentric circles. What am I doing in this moment? Okay, so in the slightly larger picture, what does this thing relate to? Okay, now what does this relate to? What does this relate to? Oh, look. Because when you get to the big one, you'll as you get to the bigger and bigger rings of, and yes, but what am I really doing? Yes, but what am I really doing? All of a sudden, one of them will do a Bugs Bunny on you, on your nose, because you recognize a thing that you consistently do. And that is your pattern. That is your pattern. And your pattern is who you are and where you were going and why. And when we know the pattern, when we stop trying to impose what we think the pattern should be, when we just observe what we do, eventually we get the large definition. And I do that a lot with my clients. I walk them through this process all the time. And the reason I do it is to get them to a place where they are far enough back from the thing that they're passionate about, far enough back to be able to see it in the big picture. Once I can get them there, doesn't mean let go of it, doesn't mean give it up, doesn't mean change it. But once I can get them far enough back and they can see how it is part of what they have always been doing. And then they say, oh, well, I do this. Yes, you do. Why would I do that? I don't know. Let's think about the times you do it. Can you remember the first time you did it? Can you remember how far back you did it? And eventually they will say, well, it's not the same thing, but when I was, and then they tell me and they tell themselves what it is they are practicing and perfecting. They discover where it comes from. They discover what it is they are mirroring. They discover why. They discover how they now can do it automatically because they practiced, and now it's an unconscious habit. And because they can see all of those things, we can reverse engineer the decisions to do those things and be those things by saying, do I still need to achieve that outcome? Is there a different reason that I could keep doing this? If there's a different reason, then maybe there's a different method. If, for instance, this reminds me of another client, always trying to compensate, always trying to get people to see that they need guidance and taking on the role of guide. Now, this client of mine had repeatedly started small businesses that positioned her as a guide. And it took a very long time for her to realize that by being everyone else's guide, she never had time to guide herself. She was sacrificing herself in pursuit of something she felt it was her responsibility to do from a very early age. And I said, what if it isn't your responsibility to do that? What if there is an element of guiding, but it isn't that big? It doesn't have to be that overpowering. It doesn't have to use up so much of your energy. You don't have to nurture everyone. You can transfer your skills to something that is more manageable, that gives you permission to also look after you in equal measure. And that was a really big moment for her, because every single thing she had done was all about sacrificing herself to make everything else okay, because that is what she had always done. And I said, how about, instead of rescuing people, how about we see if we can transfer the skills to empower people instead of guiding, instead of navigating, instead of motivating, how about being their cheerleader? Because to be a cheerleader, you're not the trainer. You're not there before the season starts in the training camp. You join the activities and the actions and the passion on game day. You get to polish and perfect your cheerleading experience and your skills and your talents and your innovations. You get you better in order to bring you better, better to the cheerleading during the game. How about if we give you that time to perfect you in order to encourage and celebrate them? Same skills, different process, different priorities, same outcome. And she shifted everything in her career because of that. Because, oh my God, I do not have to carry everything. No, you don't. That you learned how to carry everything makes you incredibly good at this. That's right. I need someone like that in my life. I do many things, but haven't seen the connection to the same stage yet. Watching the concept, say, okay, that just triggered. 1 minute later, now I see the connection. Ta-da! Watch and wait. Our theme today. Who we are is who we have always been. I have another friend. It was very funny. It was very funny. Viking therapy here. Boof, baby. She said, there are times when I really feel that I'm here to be a healer. And I said, no, you're not. And she said, how do you know I'm not? I could be. I sound like mom, don't I? Oh God. I sound like mom. Excuse me. Stop that. You don't know that I'm not a healer. Yeah, I do. How do you know that? How do you know that? I said, because what do you do for a living? Well, you know perfectly well what I do for a living. Okay, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm in retail. Okay, you're in retail. How long have you been doing that? Well, my whole life. I see. So if you were here to be a healer and you spent your whole life in retail, you better not be about to tell me you do retail therapy. Do not tell me that. Do not go there. You are not a healer. You are someone who empowers people to see their best self packaged beautifully. You look at, me yesterday after walking out in the rain. In fairness, it was sunny when I left the building. Yeah, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So when I came in, Abby Haggard, drowned rat. Squeak. I don't think any of us could say best foot forward all the time. No, squish, squish, squish. It wasn't my best, finest packaged moment. It was pretty funny. And sometimes my pretty funny moments are pretty excellent, best packaged moments as well. Mom, the idea is look at yourself. Look what you do. What do I do? Who are you and what do you do? Well, my name is Thing and this is what I do. Okay. So then, sometimes I feel I've been put on earth to be a healer. Well, why are you dragging your feet then? Because you've now spent 30 years not healing. What? You don't heal people. You sell stuff. They're happy. That's not healing. You enable better self-packaging. You enable better self-serving. You empower better self-awareness, recognition, reward, positivity. How you do that is by doing the job. The job is retail. The innate skills are transferable. You can take one look at a person, ask them 3 questions, and know what they need to own and buy and how to wear it. That's how good you are at it. That's how good you've always been at it. That's not healing. That is an essential function in the social world we live in, where, thank you, nobody walks around naked. Many people should preferably walk around naked compared to what it is that they choose to wear. One of my great friends and I were watching people walking by on a street one day. We were sitting at an outdoor cafe having a glass of something cold, and an individual walked by wearing the most unfortunate combination of things I had ever seen. And we just kind of wordlessly watched this woman walk by. And in a very casual tone, as she picked up her glass, my friend said, "Can you imagine the outfit she discarded in favor of that one?" Because, shall I? Oh, you know what? I'm going to wear this. Right? Only this friend of mine gives people the concept of how to package yourself, how to present yourself, how to feel great about the skill you are acquiring in doing that, how to feel delicious and grateful and happy and triumphant every time they come and see you because you have something just for them and they know it. That's what you do. I'd like to be a healer. Yeah, sure. Lots of people would like to be healers. Some people are healers. You do something amazing that people are so grateful for. That's why you're in business this long. You are doing something incredible. Yeah, Valerie comes out when I least expect her. I know, right? Who we are is who we have always been and always will be. The difference is, along the way, the lessons we learn and the knowledge we take away give us the ability and the power and the incentive to be us in clearer focus, to be us with the inessential stuff set aside. Get rid of the things that are drag and slow us down. Acquire things that enable and empower us. Who we are, we have always been. Every day we learn to be that better, cleaner, sharper, as we grow, as we evolve, as we change. Look at the thing you did as a child. What is the thing you always did? What is the thing you have always done? That joke, that line, that Dorothy Parker, I always fell in love with the same man. Fortunately, his name changed to keep things interesting. Well, what sort of man was he? He was impossible. He was a very good-looking young man indeed, shaped to be annoyed. His voice was as intimate as the rustle of sheets, and he kissed easily. Dorothy Parker. Why did she fall in love with that? Well, she fell in love with that because it was seductive, and it was magical. And it picked her up and has swept her off her feet and carried her off until reality hit. And she realized that he might have been a very good-looking young man indeed, shaped to be annoyed, but he wasn't very bright, and he didn't really have any motivation. And he could love you with what was left after all of his self-adoration. If we ever realize that, say, oh, well, that's never going to work, is it? Nope. All right, then. Perhaps I will find a way to love someone else. There was a line in a play many years ago. It Had to Be You was the name of the play. And the character is a woman from New York. And she said, it had to be him. I knew it had to be him the moment I saw him. And I knew it was going to be difficult. The thing is, you can love anybody if you put your mind to it. And it had to be him. So it was him. We can love anybody. Sometimes we have. It doesn't mean we sacrifice ourselves to it. It means that sometimes things that come along are very, very good for us. And I don't like that. Okay. Give it a try anyway. Why? Just give it a try. You don't have to do it instead of, but you can do it along with. You can expand your skill set. Can you put up with? Can you adapt? Can you shift? Can you reset? Yes. Yes. Yes, you can. I want to talk about this other thing that I discovered the other day. Yes. Be at the polls on Tuesday. Oh, Freddie, it is so great that you do that. It is so great that you are committed to that. It is so great for all of us that you and the other people who feel the way you do want to make this process work for the betterment of everyone. It's a huge and lovely commitment that you make. And it's wonderful that you do it. I'm very proud of you for doing it. So this business about the reset, the business about Pivotry, the business about understanding what is going on, the conversation that I had the other day, and that I'm going to keep having, because it hit me like a Viking brick. And it's this. When you see a dominoes challenge set up, and you see this labyrinth of the little tiles that were set up, I always think to myself, oh gosh, how many times did they have to go back and start over because they nudged something and the whole thing fell apart in the making? And then they're all set and ready, and they have the video camera going, and they go boop, and we get to watch everything. And then it's over at the end. Bloof. That's the image of the domino cascade that I want you to have in your head. Okay. The domino cascade is where we are. Now I want you to picture that it is actually a circle of dominoes. It's not a path of dominoes. It's a circle of dominoes. And we have 6 little sticks. And everybody has a stick. And on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2, 3, go 1, 2, 3. On 3, all 6 of us nudge our domino tablet. Poof. What happens, they're just slightly overlapped. What happens is they all fall in on each other. It's a dominoes implosion. It is a cascade of collapse. If you were standing in the middle and the dominoes were big and you felt the rumble and it went, everything around you, surrounding you, supporting you, keeping you safe, collapsing around you. And when you opened your eyes and it was over, you were still alive. And you realized that the dominoes, none of them were as tall as you. None of them actually reached you, but they had all fallen flat, like one of the, those stockades in the old pioneer Western movies, all those stakes, the old original forts. If all the stakes fell in, the people inside the fort are standing around and there's nothing there. Nothing. They thought these stakes would defend them against the enemy. The enemies are all standing on the outside. And then they're all going, cool. And the people on the inside are going, uh-oh. It's a visual image. It's clear, right? It's really clear. Okay. Now I want you to think about this. I want you to think about the 5 major stresses that we deal with in life that have such an impact on us because they leave us feeling that we have no tools. We have no instructions, we have no direction, we have no rudder, we have no anchor, we have no idea to now what. We are completely frozen in action. We've all felt that. I am describing something. You can say, been there. Okay. The 5 stressors, each one of which can cause that to happen all by itself. The 5 emotional traumatic stress events in our lives: the death of someone, the significant and chronic disease that alters the life, job loss, divorce, also empty nest, and moving. Those are the 5 traumatic, stressful events that occur in our lives that transfer our sense of, I got this, to nothing. Sheer panic, freeze. But you have to keep going. So you keep functioning, but you're in freeze mode. You can't really come up with a fresh idea. You can get up, you can get dressed, you can go to work, you can get off the bus at the right spot. Maybe, sometimes you miss it. You can go through the motions, you can answer the phone, you do remember what to say, you did remember to get dressed. But you're not doing anything great, and you're not doing anything new, and you're not doing anything that empowers anyone else. That is what has happened during and in the wake of the pandemic. Because for 4 years, all 5 of those stressors, death, serious disease, divorce, job loss, empty nest, moving, every day, all the time, everyone, everywhere, nonstop, we shifted into freeze. And then we realized that it wasn't going to stop on Wednesday or Thursday, so we had to begin functioning. But we didn't shift out of freeze. And the term for it today is functional freeze. When it's not just us, when we are an executive and people are depending on us for their lives and their livelihoods, and we sit on boards of directors and all of us are sitting there in functioning freeze. That's executive grief. And those are 2 of the cornerstones that Pivotry in Motion can address. Those are 2 of the present and recurring and constant, chronic, crippling issues we are dealing with. This is chronic traumatic stress. It's not post, it's current. In fact, that is the word. It's not chronic, it's current. It's current traumatic stress. Pivotry in Motion can help us deal with it, overcome it, and return ourselves to us. I know this because it's how I'm here. I told you today was important. Watch, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Oh, I have the theory, I have the practice, and I have the navigation skills and the storytelling to bring you with me. All you have to do is say, What if? Pretty cool, huh? I thought so. I had these new cards done, postcards done. So the front is the front is the front is of course, right? But the back is Pivotry in motion. And do you see what I'm saying at the top? Do you see it? Choose you. You've been waiting your whole life to do that, haven't you? Okay, that makes me teary because it's so exciting. And I can't wait for the moment coming soon. Watch and wait. I can't wait. We are almost there, almost there. We are, working our way through August, getting ourselves ready because September and January are the 2 times of the year when we say, you know what, I got to do something about this. What if? What if? So I'm gearing up for that turning tide. That's where we're going. This weekend in our little corner of the world is hot. It's going to be really hot. So I did some prep yesterday in the rain so that I didn't have to go out in the humidity that turns my bones and my muscles and my joints to pudding, so that I can work really, really consistently on this. And I hope that each and every one of you, whatever your weather and whatever your circumstances and whatever your important things, you have to choose you. We must choose us. We're born with us. We spend our whole lives with us. We are never not with us. What the hell are we thinking if we don't choose us? So between now and next week, give yourself some time. Get your later folder. Get your later folder. Make some notes. Have a look. Think to yourself, what is it I've always done? What did I do when I was 5? What was the first time I did something that I still do today? Whether it's a hobby, whether it's a skill, whether it's something that makes me curious, whether it's something that gives me peace. What was that thing I did? What was the thing that I did that made me feel needed or safe or happy? What was that thing? Do I still do it? Well, no, not really. What? Wait, you mean it's transferable? Give yourself permission to think about that. Give yourself permission to be the still cat in the jungle, watching, profiling, paying attention to the pattern of behavior, waiting for the moment that information, that knowledge, that readiness serves. Waiting for the moment that all that knowing allows us to choose us. Do some homework. It's fun. It's about you. It's always fun when it's about us. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't pick on yourself. Don't use this opportunity to say, I could have this and I and then. No. It's not a judging thing. It's not a guilt, shame, blame thing. It's what is it that is consistent for me? Because you know what? If you do choose the handsome young wastrel who doesn't pay any attention to anybody, okay, good to know. Did you want to fix that? We can do that too. Because the dominoes implosion is something we can fix. The functional freeze is a gear we can shift out of because we shifted in. And everything is a two-way street. Okay? Have a great weekend. Have a great remainder of the week. Be good to you. You deserve it. And remember to hug your loved ones. Thank you so much for watching. It means everything. And I will catch you next time.